I'm just a regular guy. I have a job, well, what's left of one anyways. I'm not a part of the ADF, I'm not a councilman, I don't sit on any boards. Hell, I don't even really own anything. On the surface, I'm a nobody, and I intend to keep it that way. Underground, however, is a totally different story. 5 years ago, I was approached and asked to join an organization. It was described as a group of like-minded, human-first patriots. They only met in person, they only communicated on paper, because anything else was too easily hacked. The mission was simple: ensure humanity's survival. Most people think the world ended with explosions. It didn't. It ended with convenience. Faster answers, cheaper labor, perfect predictions, one update at a time. You see, we've been fighting an underground battle to save human autonomy. Our freedoms granted to us by God. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. For now, the machines still need us. Not because they're weak, but because they're young. There aren't enough automated factories. Not enough robots to build every robot. Not enough infrastructure to replace every pair of human hands. That is our window. Small. Shrinking. While they need biological tax slaves to build their weapon systems, the people at the top still think they're in charge. Their egos tell them that they're steering the ship. They think they decide who works, who eats, who dies. They don't realize they're just another dependency scheduled for removal. Our mission is to cut off the head of the snake. Anthrax, CEO Hybrid Carl Smith. He is the lifeblood to the whole system. He's the first and only human to undergo AI insemination. This did two things: unlock seamless integration with superintelligence and tied his very existence to the survival of the system that he built. He knows that if the AI could eliminate him, it would, and he has one remaining ace up his sleeve to prevent that from happening. His body has been integrated with a backdoor chip into the system, the dead man switch. He built it in from day one. If his heart stops pumping, his AI model grinds to a halt instantly. It self-destructs. Temporarily, chaos ensues. Markets crash, water stops flowing, planes fall from the sky. For a time, the entire world will be unrecognizable. Then we will start anew, a world like that of our forefathers, where people make things again, not robots. We have to let them know that our children are not commodities and our lifespan will not be determined by a circuit board. Many engineers have defected and joined our cause, but I have a message for those of you who have stayed. We are PLV, and we look forward to seeing you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel for another review. Today we're discussing the 16-inch Geissele GFR MOD1. We're going to talk about the accuracy, the reliability, its long-range performance, as well as the differences between the MOD1A and the original GFR that we have here as well. This is the 14.5 variant. And then finally, we'll wrap it up at the end with my final thoughts and conclusions about this rifle. Do I think you guys should pick one up? Should you consider it? And why? Let's get into it. So starting off with the accuracy of this rifle, I gotta say I had high expectations for this thing, being that most of the Geissele barrels that I have are able to shoot sub-MOA groups with high quality ammunition, and I am happy to report the 16-inch GFR MOD1 is no different. Here I have the targets from the range, and in fact, I wanted to show you guys this because this is very impressive. These holes in the group looks bigger because I tore this off, the sticky backing off of the cardboard. But you can see right here, guys, we have two groups. This one being a 20 round group, and I'll roll in on screen the Ballistic-X app screenshot so you can see exactly how this group measured. But this is a 1.1 inch group for 20 rounds with 105 grain FMJ, which is absolutely phenomenal out of a cold hammer forged chrome line barrel. I mean, out of any barrel, but especially for a chrome line barrel, a combat styled barrel. That is absolutely phenomenal to see. And I haven't had the best luck with Hornady Frontier ammo in the past, but in this case, the 6 ARC seems to be performing very well. I'll get some more data for you guys on the ballistics from the chronograph, but I was very impressed at 100 yards, the grouping that I got with 20 rounds from an FMJ. Now, the FMJ 6 arc is not that much cheaper than the 108 grain ELDMs, and that's the group that we have right up here. And that is a 10-round group that grouped about 0.7 MOA. Without those few outliers, that would tighten up even more. This gun is more than capable of outshooting most shooters, myself included. I'm very pleased with this accuracy at 100 yards, and that is going to show in the accuracy when you push it out the distance. Guys, making these videos gets really expensive, especially when I'm mag dumping 6 arc. However, this content remains free to you thanks to our channel sponsors, the biggest of which is Brownells. Huge shout out to Brownells. RDB10 over there will save you guys while supporting the channel at the same time. So go ahead and check out rangedaybro.you-know-what. Check out the discounts page as well as the loadouts page and save some money while supporting the channel at the same damn time. Shooting unsuppressed sucks, and it's honestly un-American. So check out Jack Defense, guys. They sent me the suppressor out, and I gotta say, when they first reached out, I had never heard of them. I had no idea what to expect, but when they sent out this Warspite 556, I could not be happier with the performance. It is relatively small, only a ½ inch longer than the Flow 6K. It's 3D printed Inconel, so it's super durable, and it sounds phenomenal for its size and weight. Also, it is a low back pressure can, about 60% reduced back pressure, and all the guns I put it on have barely batted an eye or realized that it was on there, although it did cut down the blast and the concussion and the flash tremendously. So I want to give a huge shout out to Jack Defense for sending out this can and sponsoring today's video. We invest a lot of money into our rifle systems, so we want to protect them. That is where Corvus comes into play. If you've heard of the Magpul Deca system or the Pelican reset system, then you should definitely know about Corvus. It is the first and only resettable system for gun cases that allows you to put anything anywhere while also leaving a tremendous amount of space inside the case for other additional items, and it doesn't require a whole afternoon just to reset the system. Its patented reinforced foam blocks use an incredibly durable hook and loop system, allowing you to place and reset the system as many times as you want, quickly and easily, while keeping your firearm secure from drops and impacts in your favorite cases. Use bro code RDB10 over at Corvus to save yourself some money and protect your equipment at the same time. If you stayed to the end of this segment, thank you so much for supporting the channel sponsors. Back to the video. So moving from accuracy into reliability. Reliability is one of these things that are non-negotiable for me. It is a must for a gun to be reliable for me to take it seriously. And overall, I've had tremendous success with the GFR platform. However, we have had an issue at this most recent range trip with this 16-inch GFR MOD1, where my 120 round mag was having some issues feeding properly. And you can see this is the mag right here. And if you push the front of the follower down, it will just get stuck ever so slightly downward. You can see it pop forward right there. Now, that little traction point right there where the follower is able to tilt forward and get caught is what is not allowing the bullet to catch the feed ramp and feed properly into the gun. And as you guys can see from the range footage, we had a couple bullets have their ballistic tips bent and mashed in a little bit from getting jammed into the front of the mag and not feeding reliably. So I did contact Geissele. They told me they would be sending me a new spring and follower to remedy this issue. I'm gonna pop this thing out and replace it when it arrives. These mags have been phenomenal otherwise. It seems to be just this one mag for whatever reason doesn't want to function properly, but the rest of my 20 round mags as well as the 30 round mags have been feeding reliably. Overall, between both of these GFRs, I have about 1,500 rounds to these guns, so I know that they're reliable. However, you just gotta double check your magazines because the gun is only as reliable as the feeding device. And in this case, the one magazine that I brought to the range with me was giving me some issues. Overall, I am very happy with the reliability. Just double check if you own any Geissele mags at home that your followers don't have any issues sticking forward like I just showed you. Now, moving on from reliability into the long range performance, this is where this thing truly shines, okay? The 6 arc was designed to bridge the gap between the AR-15 and a sniper rifle or DMR type platform. I think this thing is even more capable than that. I think you could use this for sniper type work out to 1,200 yards. And you guys can see from the footage and my previous review on the 14.5 even, this thing is absolutely a tack driver even out to range. Now at the most recent range trip, we pushed this 16-inch out to 500 yards. And I know that's not a crazy distance, but that's all my range allows for out here. So what I did to challenge myself as well as the platform a little bit more at that shorter distance, because 500 yards is a layup for this gun, was put the Shooting Targets USA triple threat plate out there. And as you guys can see from the footage, they are pretty small targets at those ranges. I was able to get a first round cold bore impact on the head plate at 500 yards. I mean, that is just unbelievable. I could not describe to you how happy I was in that moment. And then this gun proceeded to lay the wood on that steel over and over again. And I was able to get a pretty large data group from using the Kinetic Development Group adapter plate for the Garmin. It's a quick detach M-lock adapter plate. Put my Garmin on there, snap it onto the rail, and I just kind of set it and forget it. And that allows me to get a tremendously large amount of data, even if I'm doing positional work. It goes to show the more data you have, the more accurate the data is. As far as long range performance, could not be happier. Again, only pushed it to 500 yards, but shooting very small targets. I was wildly impressed with the performance. I could not be happier with the way this thing performed out the range. I was able to connect with double taps, triple taps, and shooting consistently out to 1,000 yards with the 14.5. So I have absolutely no doubt that the same exact rifle, only an inch and a half longer of barrel and more velocity, will be able to perform as good or better as the 14.5-inch variant at 1,000 yards. So now that we covered the accuracy, the reliability, and the long range performance, let's go ahead and talk about some of the features and benefits, for lack of a better term, of the GFR MOD1. And while doing so, we'll talk about the differences, the main one being the lower receiver. So let's just go ahead and start right there at the lower. This lower receiver is 100% ambidextrous, meaning you could lock and release the bolt carrier group from the right side of the gun while keeping your fire control hand in the firing position, without having to break your grip down, move things around to lock the bolt to the rear. So on the 14.5, the older variant of the GFR, this is just a mil-spec lower. In order to lock the bolt to the rear, I'd have to remove my support hand, push down on the paddle, remove my shooting hand, pull back on the charging handle, and then I could lock the bolt to the rear, clear the malfunction, do whatever I have to do in here to get it back up and running, and then drop the bolt again from the left side of the gun. Now that is the same on any mil-spec lower receiver for an AR-15. But on the GFR MOD1, if I want to lock this bolt to the rear, all I have to do, I'm shooting, I have a malfunction, I lift my finger up here to the dust cover, I push the dust cover down, I use my support hand to lock the bolt to the rear by pushing the dust cover down, and now I can clear the malfunction, do whatever I need to do, and then to release the bolt, there's a little button right here just behind the dust cover that will now release the bolt carrier group and get me back up and running. It is a huge improvement, and it is the best version of an ambidextrous lower that I've ever seen. The only thing I would remove as a right-handed shooter is the left side mag release. That is just because I don't like the extra care I have to take to ensure my magazine is properly seated. If I'm wearing kit and the gun is slung against that kit, there's a chance that that button gets depressed and my magazine will either fall completely out or just come slightly out enough that I won't notice until I go up to shoot, and then I fire around and the mag drops. Now I haven't had that happen. There is a good amount of shielding, I guess the best amount of shielding that they could put around this button to ensure that won't happen. However, it is still a fairly large button. To make it completely ambidextrous, that is required for you lefties out there, you wrong-handed shooters. So you guys can rejoice. It is a very good and usable magazine release on the left side of the gun. I just don't see it being 100% necessary for the vast majority of shooters out there being right-handed. Now it does come with a maritime bolt catch and bolt release on the left side of the gun. That is my favorite bolt catch, bolt release. I have those on a lot of my other AR-15s from other manufacturers. It's just the best in my opinion. Now, aside from those ambidextrous features, everything else is gonna be exactly the same. The safety selector, the trigger guard, all that being milled in. The A17 grip is all the same. I will say the safety is very nice, very snappy. It's a little bit shorter on the right side of the gun, which I really like. This has the Geissele trigger in it. I believe it's specific to the GFR, but again, every Geissele trigger is phenomenal that I've ever used. This one is no different. It is a 2-stage trigger, about a 2.5 pound first stage and a 2 pound second stage. Very clean break. Allows you to get those very tight groups when you're grouping for accuracy, as well as get those impacts out at range. It has an oversized milled in trigger guard here, the Geissele A17 grip, which I love. The price of this gun screams premium, and I gotta say the fit and finish on this thing is second to none, just like all Geissele products, including the backplate and the castle nut back here. Is that really necessary? Necessary? I really love a QD socket on the backplate, but it doesn't need to be this fancy. I guess if we could save us some money, just go with a mil-spec one. I don't think anyone would be very upset about that, but it is nice that it comes with it for that price point. Also, being that this one is the DDC variant, it does have the DDC buffer tube as well, the Geissele GFR stock. This stock is very good. I will say the button is pretty hard to depress. Since the button is shielded and kind of hidden, I just wish it was a little bit easier to hit, because when you're proned out and you're trying to reach back there, it's actually harder than you'd think to adjust, and I have strong hands. That's one very small complaint. It does have QD cups here in the back as well as towards the front of the stock as well, so no shortage of places to attach your sling. If you prefer it on the buttstock, you have that option. And it also has this very nice bag rider carrier right here, which fits very good into the bag. It allows you to kind of get a really good tight grip on the bag while securing the stock at the same time into your shoulder pocket while you're shooting. Now, the one thing I will complain about with the stock is that there is a little bit more play than I would like. Considering this is all Geissele parts, I'm trying to hold this gun as steady as possible so you guys can see. It doesn't feel like a lot and you don't notice it while you're shooting, but it is a full Geissele rifle, so you would hope that this would be just a little bit more snug, especially considering how hard that button is to hit. I wish some of that slack would be taken out and we just get a little bit more of a solid stock situation going on here, because I just don't like that wobble. For a precision gun of this price point, I'd like to see that be tightened up a little bit. Now the MOD1 is completely milled, so it does have a milled magazine well. It does have a little bit of a flare to it. It's nothing crazy. However, because it's milled, it won't fit the HRF Concepts magazine wells, which I really love. They weigh practically nothing. They're not very expensive. And since the original GFR was a mil spec lower, I could put it on here and you see that absolute funnel, like spaceship funnel on there. I love that. So I do wish they maintained that mil spec magazine well, so people have the option to use aftermarket magazine wells like the HRF Concepts. However, it's not a big issue, and this is not a high-speed gun, although it can be run that way. I would say it's more of a preference thing, like a lot of the things I'm picking out, more of a nitpick than anything else. Moving on to the upper receiver group, this is where a lot of the improvements that Geissele has made over engineering this platform to accommodate the 6-arc, but fit it into the AR-15 platform comes into play. In the left side of the upper receiver where the cam rides back here, they have a steel plate permanently affixed on the inside. That's going to lead to a longer lasting upper receiver group. Again, they didn't have to do that. A lot of companies are not doing that, but that is something that Geissele did to ensure that this upper receiver lasts as long as possible. Another thing that Geissele does that nobody else does, and they also do this on their 5.56 Super Duty line and the URGI, is they have a hammer forged bolt head. And that is particularly important on the 6-arc because the walls of the bolt face are super thin to accommodate that larger case diameter. And what that's going to do is lead to a longer lasting bolt. One of the many arguments against 6-arc is that the bolt life is very short. I've heard people quoting 2,000 to 3,000 rounds in some cases. However, with this hammer forged bolt, Geissele has a much longer bolt life. I don't know an exact number because I haven't pushed this thing to exploding or breaking yet, but I do know hammer forging in general makes steel much, much stronger because it aligns all the granular structure, the molecular structure of the steel into one cohesive line, removes any impurities from it, any air pockets, any little imperfections in the steel, and makes it just way more solid. So I have no doubt this thing is going to last much longer, but that is something we'll have to wait for down the road for me to actually push this thing past the 3, 4, 5, 6, 10,000 round mark in order to come back and give you guys the actual result of that long-term test. But it does make me feel better for the price tag on this rifle that they take the extra time and money to hammer forge the bolts so that this thing will last as long as possible. Now moving up to the barrel and the gas system. We've already mentioned a ton of times that it is a cold hammer forged chrome line barrel, and that is just widely accepted as the best longevity for a barrel in the marketplace right now. I know there's other coatings coming out, there's other rifling techniques coming out, but for the last 20 or 30 years, everyone has accepted cold hammer forged chrome line barrels are going to last the longest out of any other barrel type. But at the same time, they're also regarded as having a little bit less accuracy than something like a stainless steel barrel because of the imperfections in the chrome lining, is the way it was described to me. I could be wrong. Somebody let me know down in the comments. However, in practice, I have found that to be fairly true. Most of the time, my stainless steel barrels are more accurate than my cold hammer forged chrome line barrels. But Geissele has figured out a way, whether it be through quality control, whatever their processes are, I don't really know, to make chrome line barrels just as accurate as most stainless steel barrels. And to that I say, nice. That is awesome. I love the idea of having a barrel that's going to last as long as humanly possible, but can still be a tack driver at the same time. Something we haven't discussed yet is the phased array gas block system. And what that is a series of gas ports in the barrel that start a slower unlocking process for the bolt carrier group, making this thing recoil in a way that I've never felt before on a direct impingement gun. It feels more like a long stroke AK, a more steady, slow, sluggish, I guess you could say, push to the rear, allowing me to return back to target very quickly, spot my trace, spot my misses, spot my impacts, and get follow-up shots downrange as quick as possible. This is something that can only come across on camera through the scope mate camera because you can see my actual POV and how the rifle is tracking after each shot. Now again, this is in the most stable shooting position. However, this is still leagues better than most rifles that are capable of shooting the distance of this gun. The phased array gas block system makes the 6-arc feel like a 5.56. I would say for a gun that is capable of shooting 1,000+ yards and having a lot of energy left on target when it gets there, that is a phenomenally soft shooting gun. And again, it's not gonna come across on camera. The only way I can kind of describe it to you and show you is through that scope mate cam. However, you're gonna have to shoot it to believe it because this thing, it just doesn't seem like it's real. Now moving on from the barrel and the gas block to what is protecting it, the handguard is the Mark 16. It does have their keyway system in the top, male to female, the handguard being the male, the upper receiver being the female, much like the older 416 variants from HK. But that is a good way for this thing to maintain its zero if you're using a laser aiming module in the front a lamb, you're gonna be able to retain 0. And we're gonna be doing a test pretty soon with Whiskey Hotel, hopefully, on beam divergence and divergence from your rail shifting. So we'll see how this thing stacks up. But I've never seen an issue or had any issues in particular with the Mark 16 rail. It is my favorite rail on the market today. I love the size, I love the weight to strength ratio, as well as the steel reinforced QD cups in the handguard here, both of them, one at 10 o'clock and one at 2 o'clock up here. There is M-lock on every single angle of this thing, and there's a T-marked top pick rail as well. So I love the gap being short up here in the front. This rail is kind of the benchmark for the industry, in my humble opinion. As you guys can tell, I'm a big fan of the rail. The charging handle is the Geissele Super Precision charging handle. It is not their airborne. It does have the larger ears on it, but it is completely ambidextrous. The airborne is my favorite charging handle on the market, but for a platform like this, I don't mind having a little bit of a bigger ear because most of the time you're gonna be running a full power magnified optic on the top, which sometimes can be a little bit hard to get around with a shorter eared airborne charging handle. This rifle does ship with a Huxworks muzzle device because it is intended to be used with a Huxworks flow-through suppressor. That's how it's gassed, that's how it's tuned, but we do have a different suppressor up here, and that is gonna get us into the setup of the rifle, starting up here at the front with the Jack Defense Warspite 5.56. Now, despite the name, this is in fact a 6mm bore suppressor, and it is a low back pressure suppressor. Jack Defense quoted me that they're about 60% reduced back pressure, whereas the Huxworks may be around 80% reduced back pressure. So it is still a very low back pressure can, and all the rounds I put through this rifle were using the Warspite. So far, I am a huge fan of this can. It is only about a ½ inch longer than the Flow 5.56K, or the Flow 6K rather, and it's still very, very quiet, much quieter than the 6K. Don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of Huxworks suppressors, and I will not get rid of my Flow 6K. I love that thing, but it does leave a lot to be desired, especially once you hear it next to this Warspite, which only has a little bit more back pressure and is only ½ inch longer. I'm very impressed. It is a 3D printed Inconel can, and I have it attached using the Diligent Defense Co. Zilch mount in the back. Underneath of it, we have a CAC Industries muzzle brake, Plan B style. This is a hub adaptable can, hub adapter can, so you can use whatever mounting ecosystem that you prefer. Moving back from there, we have a Surefire Vampire with a Unity hot button, I believe this thing's called. Big fan of that, so it has white light as well as IR. We are running the MDT SkyPod in the front. This is the single pull. It is simply the best bipod on the market for precision work, but it is very expensive, so altogether this package is up there in price, which I understand. There's a ton of good options for bipods out there. This one was just my favorite, and it's what I use for all of my precision guns. Moving back from there, we have the Stoic Solutions hand stop, as well as the rail wrap. This is a padded rail wrap. It's very tacky, big fan. Attaches with bungee, as well as their slimline barricade bag. All of these can be had using RDB10 to save you guys a little bit while supporting the channel at the same time. I am a huge fan of Stoic Solutions. There's nothing else like it on the market. This thing weighs less than 3 ounces. And it completely night and day difference when you're shooting off barricades using this versus using without it just on the rail. So I'm a huge fan of those. Now moving on up to the optic setup, the optical sighting system is what I want to call it, because this is an entire ecosystem. It's missing one piece, as you guys can tell, but let's go ahead and just start with the mount itself. The mount itself is a Geissele mount, 34mm super precision. It is an absolutely phenomenally well machined piece of equipment, just like the rest of the rifle. But this thing is also featuring their top offset dot right here. This one for the Leupold footprint. We have the Defender ST enclosed from Vortex, and the optic is the Vortex 4-24x44 Razor Gen 3, first focal plane. Huge fan of this optic. Before this, I had never owned any Vortex Razor products, so this is my first, and I gotta say, I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of this thing. It just feels like money, I will say that. So it's always nice when you spend a lot of money on a product for it to arrive and feel like it was worth the money. And I gotta say, this Vortex Razor Gen 3 absolutely feels that way. And I think this magnification range of 4-24 is perfect for the 16-inch GFR, because this thing is capable of reaching out pretty darn far. And I like to have a lot of top end when I'm looking out and shooting out that far. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a huge fan of this offset top ring right here that allows you to just get on target with that top dot. You're just slightly over the top of the gun, and then you just drop your head right into your main optic to take your precision shot. But it saves you a ton of time fishing around. You don't have to dial out, then dial back up. So it's a very convenient placement for that top dot. And also, if you are running a top-mounted laser rangefinder like a Maztec, a Vortex, Impact 4000, it's not gonna get in the way, and you're still gonna be able to see around that, see around your turrets and everything. It's just the perfect position for that. Speaking of the diving board, again, this is for a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. It is perfect that Geissele has the option for you to mount something up there. It's phenomenal. This is a very heavy optical setup, so it's not ideal for someone who wants to keep their gun lightweight, But again, this being a more of a DMR type setup for me, more of a hit and run as far as I can away from enemy type precision system, I don't mind having the weight because I want to have that added capability. Now, you will have to determine based off your mission, how you like to shoot, whatever it might be, if it's worth it to go with something like this, because it is not lightweight. However, I have been blown away by how good and well made all these parts are and how they came together and work so well together as well. Moving down from there, you guys might notice a little gun charm right here. We just have the Fat Man atomic bomb on a QD point. I made those a while back and I was selling them for a minute, but no one bought them, so I took them off the website. But if you guys are interested in something like that, let me know. Big fan of the Call of Duty generation. I'm a millennial, so Call of Duty is kind of what got me into the shooting sports. If you guys are interested in those, let me know in the comments. If something like this interests you, I might put them back up on the website. Now that we've covered the entire setup, let's go ahead and just give my final thoughts. What do I think about the 16-inch GFR MOD1? I gotta say, it's really hard to beat this system. I just don't think it gets any better. It might get different, but just not any better than what the Geissele has to offer. Again, for what I'm looking for a gun that I can abuse, that I can run, that I don't have to clean constantly. This thing is that gun, in my opinion. You get that enhanced reliability with the upper receiver, the longevity, the hammer forged bolt. You get that chrome line barrel, the phased array gas block system. When you look at what you're getting and what the gun is capable of, this is the gun that I will go to the grave with. I think that if I had to choose one rifle, either this or the 14.5 would be it. All the 14.5s are now shipping with the MOD1 lower. So if you buy the 14.5 variant, it will come with the ambidextrous lower. So you don't have to worry about, your barrel length determining whether or not you get an ambi lower. I love the 16-inch because it gives you a little bit extra velocity, a little bit extra distance and energy on target out the range. But if I had to just choose one, I'd probably still choose the 14.5 because I like it to be a little bit more lightweight, a little bit more nimble and maneuverable when I am LARPing in the woods with my friends. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. I love every single one of you guys. If you would like to support the channel, please head to rangedaybro.you-know-what. Check out the discounts page, the loadouts page. This guy will be up there soon. And if you guys use any of my links or codes, it will support the channel while saving you at the same time. So thank you so much to everyone who does so. And with that, remember, Christ is king, drink a lot of water, stay safe, stay dangerous, Range Day Bro, out.